2. Oh, hold on. What? This is, see, these are the moments. Now it wants me to sign back in.
So my beautiful viewers, you were wondering what is cooking today. So we have something spectacular today. Beautiful Christina is going to do her masterclass. So my beautiful Christina, please introduce yourself and then start your masterclass, my beautiful one. We are here, we are here, we are here. Mwah.
Wonderful. Thank you for this introduction. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you all. So I'm Christina Heike, and I welcome you to this class, Breaking the Cycle of Intergenerational Trauma. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? I am a speaker, author, teacher, a medicine woman of the soul, and founder of Soul Science, where we heal emotional trauma at its root through science-backed and soul-aligned methods. And in this presentation, I share part of my story that brought me to this line of work and is very close to my upcoming book, The Cycle Breaker's Gift. I will share why this topic is important, and I will do a practical exercise with you, the inner family table, so that you can reconnect with your younger selves if they are not already connected. And I will be leading you through 7 clarities in that. So let me begin with sharing my slides. There. Very good. Let me begin with my story. I was born in West Berlin in the Cold War times. That means with a wall surrounding me, the west part of Berlin, which was supposedly the free part, but not really, and a hot war inside of the family with walls separating and dividing us. I was the sensitive child in a non-sensitive family, and I felt just different and couldn't quite find the words for it. I felt like the black sheep, like simply not belonging. I think some of you might relate to that. Have you been the one who felt too much or felt too different, not quite fitting in? Then you know what I'm talking about. And it expresses in many different facets, in people pleasing, in perfectionism, in wanting to stay invisible, in many different areas. Each of us has their own version, obviously. And yet I did feel somehow I had a normal childhood, which made the understanding of that something was not quite right not easier. Growing up, I did discover behaviors that I really didn't like and that I didn't have a real handle on. I couldn't change it. And that gave me a lot of inner turmoil. But I was really determined not to become like my father or my mother. That was like a no-go, right? That was unimaginable. So I looked for ways to change those behaviors and turmoil inside of myself with yoga, therapy, spiritual practices, and they all did something, but not quite going to the root so that I could release what was burdening me. And so this became my quest to find something that would really go to the root, to release those, what I now call trauma. And I finally found it in new decision therapy that was developed by Dr. Kenneth Blakely. And in the course of my work with people, I developed something called inner family communication. And that is something you're going to get a taste of today. And these two made all the difference. First, clarity that I gained. We need to turn to our pain. We cannot shut it out if we want to heal. And what I saw and still see in my fellow humans is that we numb ourselves, we distract ourselves, we attempt to push those feelings away because they're either too much, too hard, or sometimes they're preverbal and we don't even know how to relate to them, right? And that is, I believe, our biggest blind spot. And I believe that's really my passion and mission, to help other people also invite all these parts that we have disenfranchised back in. I'm going to say more about that in a second. Second, clarity. The pain is disconnection. So you're not broken, you're really disconnected. And the good part in this is that you can reconnect, you can change that, right? I will share 3 significant events in my life that make the disconnection very visible. And the first one that I was told by my parents that I was left at home with a grandmother that I barely knew at 9 months old. I might have seen her maybe 3, 4 times before. So she was basically a stranger to me. And my parents and my brother, as you can see, I have an older brother in that picture. The little one is me. My parents and my brother, they went on vacation for 3 weeks. And at that time, that seemed very normal because the baby, wasn't a real human anyways at that point in their belief. And so they just left me. So that was the first big abandonment. The second one, also shared by them in conversation, was at age 4 when I was left at a playground. We were on vacation this time, they took me, and we were at the Northern Sea. It has like a very special, it's called like a mud flat, where you like sink into, like grown-ups sink into their knees in mud. It's supposed to be very healing and amazing, but to a 4-year-old, this was just super scary. Very high up, obviously, when you're 4, it's not just to your knees. And there were worms, and like I was so spooked, and I was like, I'm not going. And my parents tried to force me, and in the end, they just left me on the playground, and they went for 2 hours to that mud flat walk with my brother and picked me up afterwards. I don't even have words for it. My parents, when they tell the story, especially my mom, to this day, she's laughing about it. She's like, "You were so stubborn, even back then. Ha ha ha." Right? I'm sharing it in these details so you might have your own stories that are along those lines, right? That were normalized and still they went pretty deep. And then the third one is as a teenager, where I had my first little heartbreak and was very sad. And my mom surprisingly came to trying to comfort me, which unfortunately ended up in her blaming me for everything that happened. And so I learned that it's really not safe to open my heart. So those were 3 moments where I can put my finger on for the disconnection. Those moments don't have to be that loud, right? We all have those subtle, small moments where, like, we also call them the last straw events, where we just, part of us shuts down and disconnects. Breath. And feel free to take notes if you listen to this masterclass. Take notes if memories come up. So the next one, the next slide, is just connecting the dots, right? This wound, this hurt, this disconnection didn't start with you, didn't start with me. My mother lost her mother when she was 10 and then was a refugee just 2 years later, lost her home, her country. Lived in World War II with hunger and bombs and all of it. My father as well. They were both born in 1932, child of the Second World War. He was in Berlin. His parents sent him to a village in the countryside because it supposedly was safer when he was 10. Russian occupation of the house where my grandparents lived. They were Russian soldiers occupying it. And also hunger, bombs, scary, fearful times. So this is a generation that never was taught how to feel anything. And there was really no room for feelings. They were just trying to survive. And they carried all of that into our home, into their relationship, into our family, and into me. And this is an example how intergenerational trauma is passed forward, is moving forward. This is a very important clarity to me, and I want to share it, that trauma is not the event, but our reaction to the event. So just because something happened to another person and they didn't create a trauma, it doesn't mean that it can't be traumatic for you, or vice versa. There's no guideline for how much pain creates a trauma. That's where our very own makeup, our sensitivity plays a huge role. And as sensitive people, as I am, the threshold for creating trauma blocks, of course, is much lower than for someone who has a pretty thick skin, right? And trauma as a subconscious decision made in overwhelm, where we couldn't go anywhere else. This was the only thing we could do, like really a survival decision. And the good news, we can make a new decision. And this means that healing is possible. We cannot change what happened, but we can change how it lives within us, or if it stops living within us. Yes, we can heal our younger selves and bring them back around the inner family table. That is what this work is. And that is what we're going to do today. I want to invite you to an inner family exercise. So if you have a piece of paper, that would be wonderful. Yeah, ready? Awesome. So this is the exercise. And actually, maybe before you read any of this, let's just center ourselves for a moment, stretch out, because it's so important that we do all these things body-centered and not just in our head. Because our body holds a lot of wisdom, especially the emotional wisdom. Let's put our feet firmly on the ground, move our hips a little bit, move our shoulders a little bit. Put our right hand to our heart. If you want, you can close your eyes. If not, that's fine too. And just allow yourself to follow your breath. Breathing in through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. And then blow your exhale out as if you would blow through a straw so that this extends your exhale. Three times in, three times out. And then just envision inside of yourself a table, your inner family table. However you like, I love round ones. You give it the shape you want, you wish. And we want to, in this exercise, find a place for all the different emotions, all the different parts that we have inside. Deep breath in and out. So some might sit right at the table, some might be in the corner, some are maybe not even visible. They're so far away from the table and cannot share in that inner family, are so far disconnected. And you may open your eyes. I have written down here some emotions, some feelings, and expressions also, like, so the people pleaser is not necessarily a feeling, but manifestation of a feeling and of a trauma blockage. And you see here, close to the center, are the ones that you welcome, at the edge, barely allowed, and then maybe you have some that you, again, as I said, place in the corner. And I give you a few minutes to just go ahead and feel free to add feelings or parts, or, it doesn't have to be complete. Make this your own. Yes, Natalie, we're inviting aspects of ourselves of multiple different ages. Correct. Yeah. So that's also why there are feelings and also like more expressions of like what trauma blocks have created in us. And now that you have placed most of these feelings and parts, I invite you to focus on one that you want to give more attention to right now. And I would recommend to invite the one that is the furthest away from that inner family table, but it's absolutely your choice. And maybe for a moment, put your hand back on your heart and reach internally out to that part and invite it to come closer where everyone else is. And you might want to say something to that part. You know, you can find your own words, or here I gave you some examples that you can use. You could also envision to reach your hand out to that younger version of yourself. You are welcome here. I need your voice inside of me. I see you. I love you. Can we work together? Let's do this together. And this is not a one-time reaching out thinking that's it. This is something I would, for this part that you chose today, do it at least for a week, several times a day. Put your hand on your heart and check in with that part. Yeah, and train yourself to be aware of it, so that it gets from disconnection to more connection. And in this way, you create a warm, loving presence for yourself, part by part. And that is also what I like to call a remothering process. Becoming that loving presence for ourselves. And what that also does is it encourages you to stop reaching out to others for that warm, loving presence. Yeah. Of course, we want community and friendship and support each other. But what often happens when we have, especially with an abandonment wound, is that we try to find it in a partner. We try to reach out to a partner to replace that, what we didn't have. And that's usually a recipe for disaster and for codependent relationship structures. So again, know that you can create that motherly warmth for yourself. It will take time, but it's possible. And some parts might need so much more than this and words. They might need real deep forgiveness work, body-centered forgiveness work, which is new decision therapy. That would, let's say, get the parts that are hiding out in the basement, that is bringing those parts back, the ones that we can't even put our fingers on because they've been pushed out so far. And this process then releases you from your trauma bonds, right? Because that's the secret when we say forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for ourselves. Why do we say that? It is because the trauma bond has a hook in ourselves and the other person. And the forgiveness is a tool to release that hook. And so the connection is void. And then it's up to us if we want to have a relationship with that person or absolutely not, or anything in between. So I already began talking about that to highlight that there are two different things. One is more care and tools for self-regulation that are helping us when the waves are high in the storm. And that's what we did as an introduction to the inner table exercise, inner family table exercise. And that is like a daily tools to manage the upheavals that might come, especially if you're a sensitive person. And then there's cure, healing modalities that help us really reduce the number of storms we have, which is golden. And I am working with inner family communication and new decision therapy to go to the root of the storms and enable us to have less storms, less stormy weather. We need both, right? We need both to really navigate life and grow our emotional capacity. Just because you have much less storms, there's still things that will get under your skin, and you will have to regulate and digest what happened. And it's always good to have tools for that. There will be a lot of tools in my upcoming book. I say more to that later. There's another. I'm just reading in the comments. So in our before our Q&A, we're going to talk about the table exercise a bit more. Yeah, Gail, then we can speak about that more. So this takes it a bit further. It speaks of that image of the vision I have about those hurt parts, about those trauma blocks. I envision them really as younger parts of us frozen in time when that hurt happened. And through that freeze being basically disconnected from us, but still connected enough to drain our battery. Right. So there, of course, we cannot completely disconnect from anything within us. But if they're pushed aside and frozen so far that we cannot work with them, they're really draining our energy. And when these frozen parts, when we melt them through for example, the table exercise, inner family communication, and new decision therapy, they can really come home and come to the whole inner family back around the table. It sets our life force and creativity free. It allows us to find more meaning in our life, in our relationships, and tap into our purpose. And usually this is not like a one-time dramatic event, like, oh, I'm healed, I'm enlightened. It's an organic process that will happen over time. And I'm sure all of you have experienced some of that. The wonderful thing is what you heal moves forward to your children and to everyone around you. So what I inherited from my parents, and that's what I shared, is just a tiny bit of it, right? That loneliness, abandonment. If I would not have healed it, I would have handed it down to my son. And that was also one of my biggest motivations. I really didn't want to hand down all that burden that felt unbearable when I was younger to my children, nor to anyone else for that matter, right? So you do this not only for yourself, you do it for your children and your children's children, really for your whole ancestor line. The wound did not start with you, but with you it can stop. Are you the cycle breaker? Deep breath. So everything I touched on today is in much more depth in the book, The Cycle Breaker's Gift, A Sensitive Person's Guide to Healing Intergenerational Trauma. It's coming out real soon. I will later on share the waitlist link and a few other things. So if you're here and you're a sensitive person, your sensitivity really was never the problem. The problem was that most people around you didn't understand the sensitivity. And so you might have collected more of those trauma blocks, more than your fair share. But at the same time, when you heal them, this sensitivity becomes your superpower. You experience life in much more color, in much more like sound, in much more depth. You have visceral experiences when you read a book, or like, you know, you're more connected to nature. You're usually more able to connect to others. So there's so much beauty and richness in that sensitivity when you learn to heal and to navigate it. And the book and this class is an invitation to do exactly that. Oops, what? Too far? There. Thank you all so much for being here again. And also, if you watch this later on, thank you so much for taking the time. And I hope you gained some insights in the inner workings of yourself. I have a free worksheet for you for the inner family table exercise. Are the QR codes fully visible? Because on my end, there are some things overlapping it. Can you fully see them?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Okay. I have a super special offer for a one-on-one in a family table session that is usually $175 and now just $55. And I would love for you to take me up on it. This offer is good for 24 hours. And I have another offer that is a mini course that is a 1.5 hour course where we dive a little deeper and work a little bit more personal and interactively on that inner family exercise. So you are invited to all 3 of them, and I would be very happy to have you. Thank you for being here. Do you still need a moment for this screen, maybe? Then I will stop the screen share. Deep breaths. How are you feeling? And how was that exercise?
I really loved that as well. I remember when I did my family constellations in 2006, and people didn't know my family, they didn't, but they were playing the role as my father and my mother.
Yeah.
And then I realized, but they also done what they knew best. They didn't know better. So this was your beautiful masterclass is beautiful. I did also look at your inner circle, and one of the things I wish upon all of us when I was younger is peace, because there was always fights,
Same.
with all
Same.
the drinking. There's always fights. So I just did a prayer for my family, even for my father that passed over, for peace. And I felt so much lighter. So thank
Yeah.
you, Christina. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, because in my book I can share the link here for the wait list. In my book, exactly the coming full circle with my father will be the guiding light throughout this book. And he passed last year, and we made full peace. And just disclaimer, just because that how it was for me, that doesn't have to be how it will be for you, right? I'm this whole thing, I did it so you can too. I'm not a fan of this, because we're all very different. We have all very different situations. But in this case, I was able to make full peace with my father, and I'm eternally grateful for the whole experience. And there's so much nuance to it that didn't have space in that masterclass that I bring in the book. Also, the fact that I wanted to share, like, before I even started the work, in my first therapy, I had a recurring dream of a dying woman that was reaching out from a grave. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? And that was my late grandmother, right? The mother my mother lost when she was 10 through very terrible suffering of cancer for many, many years. And so there's so much more nuance to the healing, and so much complexity that I really invite you to. And I know most of you are already on the journey, and that's wonderful. And yet there's usually another layer and another layer. As long as we walk the planet, there's more to expand and build capacity to.
Thank you, Christina. My beautiful girl, how are you feeling?
Well, I found it interesting. Like I said in my comments, when I went through that list, I've been doing this since I was 21, and I'm not 22. So I've been doing this for a lot of years. So there's been a lot of healing in my life. But what I did focus on, 2 things. I put more than 2 things in there, but the 2 things I focused on was manipulation and judgment. So
Mm.
though I found that I know that those are still an issue for me. And so if it's an issue for me, then there's a mirror there that I have to look at. And that's how I look at things. I don't try to dissolve it. I just look at it as being a reflection of me. And if I don't like it, then it's me that I'm not liking. So what does that mean? Right.
I loved it.
Didn't quite get the last part. If you don't say that
If I
again.
don't like the reflection that I'm seeing back, the reflection is me. So then there is a part of me that I'm not liking being reflected back to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you, Gail. Moja, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, thank you. Thank you. First about that part within a table. Actually, I think one part of me is the part that has been invisible for so long, and that now I'm trying to heal that part, and I can see that part, and it wants to come out. And I feel it, and I'm so grateful that it's here and that I can welcome this. And I also want to say that it was a privilege to work with Christina because she taught me so much. One thing was that actually I asked her, Christina, why am I so sensitive? I've been suffering all my life because of that. I feel too much and so on. And she said, oh, it's a sensitivity is not a curse, it's a gift. And I said, wow. It was such a, I don't know, it was so good to hear that. Yes. Okay. So there is nothing wrong with me. I said, I'm okay. So I'm different from other people, but I'm okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
And the second part is, and the second part was that I used to reach out to people a lot. And Christina actually taught me to go inside and maybe to talk to my inner child and to give her a hug, to reassure her that I'm here for her. So that was also healing. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Moitza.
Thank
Thank you for trusting me with this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And my beautiful Natalie?
Thank you, Sanet. It's excellent. This is it's just amazing because I've really been drilling down on this exact topic, my inner child. And I've never done I like the idea of a dinner table for healing. I had a lot of trauma around the dinner table. And what I found very interesting was as I brought that up, my sister was not present in my memory at all. Every other member, but not her. And that's very interesting. And self-love. Self-love was the quality that was most despised and discouraged. Any kind of feeling good about oneself was, yeah. So that's what I brought. And again, this is what it's been highlighted. So it was like I've been prepared this week for this. It prepared me as I was just feeling into all this in advance of this class. I'm like, wow. So very important. Many people are extremely out of touch. And I know there's more work for me to do here. I've done a lot of dissolving, compassion and different things, but I think this is like more like the cleanup crew. This is like a real cleanup of the shards and it's like the wounded soldiers it's like healing them up, bringing them in side by side. Well done. Well done. I really got a lot out of it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I very much share that the dinner table in our house was horrific. So that's part of why I think bringing them around the inner family table peacefully and lovingly makes such a difference. Yeah. So,
Christina, I have a board of directors.
You have what?
A board of directors table.
That is fine.
Right. And what I have done over the years is invited those parts of me to play a role at the board so that they have an equal voice, not an overpowering voice, but an equal voice. And it's done a really good job of allowing ego to play the role that ego is supposed to play and no more.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent point you're making. The intention of the work is because as long as we push those parts aside, we give them more power, right? It's almost like if you have a child that throws a tantrum and you're just like, go away, I don't want to hear you, go away, the tantrum gets stronger, right? And with reconnecting and building a relationship and a connection, giving it the proper spot at the family table, you actually create like you could say a board of directors table, like, and maybe some of them are still a little bit younger and need some growing up. Maybe they're all grown up. I don't know. That's different in everyone's internal
the child
world.
Me sits in my lap and swings her feet all the time when I'm on the computer. So
with the words of my late Buddhist teacher, like fear and anxiety, they don't need to sit right at the table. They need like a hammock on the side where you can like swing them a little bit so that they calm down and chill and that they know they're safe. Right? So it's like everything has its organic and own way of being at its best.
Yeah,
right?
well, fear and anxiety to me comes from ego. So ego has an equal spot at the table.
Yeah, well, I have a very different take on ego. I don't even think we have an ego. I think ego is really our hurt parts rearing their head and showing up and making life difficult. So I know also in Buddhist teaching, the ego is always bashed and wants to be like, kicked out. I have a different approach to that, but that's okay.
Thank you. So, Christina, how are you feeling, my beautiful one?
I'm good. I'm good. I feel like I had, now that I have more time, I could have infused much more story. But that's okay. That's okay.
I have to go to
Natalie?
Meeting.
I shared the link, right, for the waitlist in the chat if you would like to. And then, yes, a few people are leaving. Okay.
Thank you so much. I will click on that for the waiting list for the book because I will be on the waiting list as well. Let me quickly click on that so that I have the link, and then I am gonna come back to you. Give me 1 second. So my beautiful viewers, I know that you have loved this. Please look down in the show notes below. Christina's details is there. Also, her gift is also there, and also her connection point. So you will be able to book a coffee chat with her, go to her website and book a one-on-one. So thank you so much, my beautiful Christina, for an amazing masterclass. Thank you, Moya, for being here. And then my beautiful viewers, thank you for watching our beautiful Power Hour every week, every Sunday and every Thursday. So this show will go out on a Sunday. And on Thursdays, we have more shows, both of them 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So I want to wish you all a beautiful day. Smile often and keep on dancing. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here. Take good care of yourselves.